You know that moment when your entire life changes in an instant, when the universe conspires to put you exactly where you need to be, even if it feels like the most embarrassing moment of your existence? Yeah, that happened to me, in a bathroom, with a guy I'd been secretly watching for 6 months, and let me tell you, nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. My name is Adrian, and this is the story of how a mortifying bathroom incident became the beginning of the greatest love I've ever known. The Portland rain hammered against the windows of Sterling and Associates architecture firm that Tuesday afternoon in late September. I'd been working there as a junior architect for 8 months, long enough to know everyone's coffee order, short enough that I still felt like I was proving myself every single day, and long enough to develop a completely hopeless, utterly consuming crush on Ethan Reeves. Ethan was a senior architect, 5 years older than my 26 years, and everything I'd ever been afraid to want. Tall, with dark hair that fell just slightly too long over his forehead, sharp cheekbones that could cut glass, and these impossibly warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He wore tailored button-downs with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that made my brain short-circuit every time he reached across the conference table for a blueprint. But it wasn't just his looks. God, if it were just his looks, I could have handled it. It was the way he listened, really listened, when the interns presented their ideas. The way he stayed late to help anyone who was struggling with a design problem. The way he brought in bagels every Friday and remembered that I liked mine with plain cream cheese, not the flavored kind. The way his entire face lit up when he talked about sustainable architecture and green building practices. I was so far gone it wasn't even funny. The problem, I had no idea if Ethan was gay, straight, or anywhere in between. He kept his personal life private, never mentioned dating anyone, and our office wasn't exactly the kind of place where people wore their identities on their sleeves. Portland was progressive, sure, but corporate architecture firms still had that subtle conservative edge that made me keep my own sexuality relatively quiet. I told myself 1,000 times to get over it, to stop letting my heart race every time he walked past my desk, to stop engineering reasons to work late on nights when I knew he'd be there, to stop imagining what it would feel like if he ever looked at me the way I looked at him. But the heart wants what it wants, even when what it wants is completely impossible. It happened at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that had already been hellish. I'd been working on the Morrison Hotel project, a boutique renovation downtown that was my first real solo assignment. The clients had changed their minds about the lobby design for the third time that week, and I'd spent the entire day frantically reworking elevations and 3D renderings. My eyes burned from staring at AutoCAD, my shoulders were knotted with tension, and I'd consumed enough coffee to fuel a small spacecraft. The office had emptied out hours ago. Even Ethan had left, calling out a friendly "don't stay too late" as he headed for the elevator around 6. I'd waved without looking up, too absorbed in getting the cantilever calculations right for the new reception desk design. By 6:45, my bladder was staging a full-scale rebellion. I saved my work and headed to the restroom down the hall, the nice one, not the main bathroom by the elevators. This one was technically the executive washroom, but after hours, everyone used it because it was cleaner and had better lighting. Plus, it was a single-occupancy room with a lock, which meant privacy. Except I was so preoccupied with the Morrison project that I forgot to actually flip the lock. I was standing at the sink, splashing cold water on my face when I heard the door open behind me. My head was down, water running through my fingers, eyes closed as I tried to wash away the tension headache building behind my temples. I was wearing my usual work attire, navy slacks and a light blue Oxford shirt that I'd unbuttoned at the collar after everyone left. My dark blonde hair was disheveled from running my hands through it approximately 6,000 times. "Oh, sorry," I thought. The voice made my entire body freeze. I looked up into the mirror, water dripping down my face, and locked eyes with Ethan Reeves. He was standing in the doorway, one hand still on the handle, his eyes wide with surprise. He'd clearly come back to the office for something. His messenger bag was slung over his shoulder and he was wearing his jacket. For a moment, we just stared at each other in the mirror. I should have said something, anything. "No problem," or "I forgot to lock it," or literally any combination of words that would have made the situation less awkward. Instead, I stood there like a complete idiot, water dripping off my chin, unable to form coherent thoughts because Ethan Reeves was looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. He started. "No, I began at the same time. We both stopped. The silence stretched out thick and electric. And then something shifted. Ethan didn't leave. He didn't back out of the doorway with an embarrassed laugh. He didn't make a joke to diffuse the tension. Instead, he stepped fully into the bathroom and quietly closed the door behind him. My heart stopped. Adrian, he said softly, and the way he said my name made something in my chest crack open. Are you okay? I grabbed a paper towel with shaking hands, dabbing at my face to buy myself time. Yeah, I'm fine, just long day. He moved closer and I could smell his cologne, something woody and clean that I'd memorized from months of sitting near him in meetings. You've been working too hard on the Morrison project. I saw your car in the lot when I came back. You came back, the words slipped out before I could stop them. Ethan's lips quirked into a small smile. I forgot my laptop, left it in my office when I rushed out earlier. He paused and his eyes searched my face in a way that made my skin tingle. But I'm glad I did. Glad you forgot your laptop. My brain was not functioning at full capacity. Glad I came back. The air between us felt charged like the moment before lightning strikes. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All I could do was stare at him and wonder if I was imagining the way his gaze had dropped briefly to my mouth before returning to my eyes. Adrian, he said again, and this time his voice was rougher, lower. I need to ask you something and I need you to be honest with me. My pulse thundered in my ears. Okay. Have you noticed me watching you? The question hit me like a physical blow. What? Ethan took another step closer, close enough now that I had to tilt my head back slightly to maintain eye contact. He was maybe 3 inches taller than me and the proximity made my knees weak. For 6 months, he continued, his voice quiet but intense, I have been completely, desperately aware of every single moment you're in the same room as me. The way you bite your lower lip when you're concentrating. The way you always tuck your hair behind your right ear when you're nervous. The way you light up when you're talking about design theory. The way you stayed late every single time I did, even when you didn't have to. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I've been losing my mind, Ethan continued, trying to figure out if I was imagining the way you looked at me sometimes. Trying to convince myself that it was just wishful thinking, that I was projecting my own feelings onto you because I wanted so badly for them to be mutual. Ethan, my voice came out as barely a whisper. So I'm asking, he said, and there was something vulnerable and raw in his eyes now. Was I imagining it, or have you been watching me too? The truth hovered on my lips, terrifying and exhilarating. This was the moment where I could play it safe, laugh it off, protect myself from the possibility of rejection or complication or everything I'd been afraid of. Or I could be brave. I've been watching you since my first week here, I admitted, and once the words started, they wouldn't stop. I tried not to. I told myself it was stupid, that you were out of my league, that you probably weren't even interested in guys, that I was setting myself up for heartbreak. But I couldn't help it. Every time you walked into a room, it was like everything got brighter. Every time you smiled at me, I felt it for hours afterward. Every time you stayed late and I made up excuses to stay too, I told myself I was being pathetic, but I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. Ethan's eyes darkened and he moved closer still. We were inches apart now. So close I could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Say that again, he murmured. Which part? The part where you've been watching me, the part where you made excuses to stay late with me, the part where you felt my smiles for hours. My breath caught. Ethan, what are we? I'm going to kiss you now, he said, and it wasn't a question, but he paused anyway, giving me time to object, to pull away, to stop this before it started. I didn't. Instead, I leaned in, closing the final distance between us, and whispered, please. When Ethan's lips met mine, the entire world narrowed to that single point of contact. The kiss started gentle, tentative, almost questioning. His hand came up to cup my jaw, thumb brushing along my cheekbone with a tenderness that made my chest ache. I gripped the edge of the sink behind me for support because my knees had officially given up on the whole keeping Adrian upright mission. And then something ignited. The kiss deepened, and suddenly Ethan's other hand was at the small of my back, pulling me closer. I made a sound, halfway between a gasp and a sigh, and felt him smile against my lips before kissing me harder. My hands found their way to his chest, fisting in the fabric of his shirt, pulling him even closer because close wasn't close enough, would never be close enough. He tasted like coffee and cinnamon, and the feeling of his mouth on mine was everything I'd imagined and nothing like I'd imagined all at once. Better, so much better. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against mine. "I've wanted to do that for so long," he breathed. I laughed shakily. "We're in a bathroom. I don't care if we're on the moon. I've been waiting 6 months to kiss you, Adrian." "Why didn't you?" The question came out before I could stop it. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" Ethan pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. "Because I was terrified, because workplace relationships are complicated, because I wasn't sure you felt the same way, because I'm 5 years older than you and I didn't want you to feel pressured, because I'm your senior and I didn't want to abuse that dynamic, because—" I kissed him again, cutting off his words. When I pulled back, I was smiling. "I'm 26, not a child, and I've wanted you for longer than I want to admit." "Yeah," his smile was soft, almost disbelieving. "Yeah." We stood there for a long moment, just looking at each other, and I felt something shift fundamentally in my world. Like a door I hadn't known was closed had suddenly swung open, revealing a future I'd been too afraid to even imagine. "We should probably talk about this," Ethan said eventually. "About what this means, about how we navigate this at work." "We should," I agreed. "But not here." "No, definitely not in the bathroom where I forgot to lock the door." He laughed, and the sound was warm and genuine and made something in my chest glow. "Have you eaten dinner?" I shook my head. "There's a Thai place 2 blocks from here. It's quiet, private, we could talk." "Like a date," the words came out hopeful, almost shy. Ethan's smile widened. "Exactly like a date. Our first date, which I'm starting in a bathroom apparently, so I'm already setting the bar really low for future romantic gestures." I laughed, and it felt good, like releasing pressure I'd been holding for months. "I don't know, the bathroom thing kind of works for us." "Does it?" "Well, you did walk in on me and refuse to leave. That's pretty bold." I prefer to think of it as recognizing a pivotal moment and seizing it. That's one way to describe stalking me into the executive washroom. Says the guy who's been watching me for 6 months. "Tache." We grinned at each other like idiots, and I realized I'd never felt this happy, this light, this hopeful in my entire life. As we left the bathroom together, Ethan holding the door open with a gallant gesture that made me roll my eyes and smile simultaneously, I felt the weight of possibility settling over me. This was real, this was happening. Ethan Reeves, the guy I'd been hopelessly crushing on for months, had just kissed me in a bathroom and asked me on a date. The universe had conspired to put us in exactly the right place at exactly the right time, and instead of running away from the possibility of something scary and complicated and wonderful, we were both choosing to run toward it. As we walked down the hallway together, our shoulders occasionally brushing, I caught sight of our reflection in the dark windows overlooking the city. 2 men, side by side on the edge of something that could change everything. And for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid. I was ready. So there I was, sitting across from Ethan Reeves at a quiet corner table in a dimly lit Thai restaurant, still half convinced I was dreaming. 20 minutes ago, I'd been alone in a bathroom, exhausted and stressed about a hotel lobby design. Now I was on a date, an actual date, with the man I'd been pinning over for half a year. The universe really does have a sense of humor. The restaurant Ethan chose was perfect, small, intimate, with warm golden lighting and the scent of lemongrass and basil in the air. We sat at a corner booth with worn leather seats, partially hidden from the rest of the dining room by a carved wooden screen. It felt private, safe, like a bubble where the rest of the world couldn't reach us. "So," Ethan said after we'd ordered pad thai for me, massaman curry for him, "I feel like I should probably start by apologizing for ambushing you in the bathroom." I laughed, some of the nervous tension in my shoulders easing. "You didn't ambush me, you walked in on me in an unlocked bathroom, which was my fault, and then stayed." "I couldn't leave," he said simply. "The moment I saw you standing there, looking so exhausted and beautiful and completely unguarded, I couldn't make myself walk away. Not again." Beautiful, he'd called me beautiful. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. Again. Ethan's expression turned rueful. "I've walked away from you so many times, Adrian. Every time I wanted to ask you to grab coffee, every time I wanted to stay and talk after everyone else had left. Every time I caught myself staring and had to force myself to look away. Tonight, I just couldn't do it anymore. I'm glad you didn't. The admission came easily, honestly. I've spent 6 months convinced this was one-sided, that I was projecting, that I was reading things into every interaction because I wanted so badly for you to feel the same way I did. What way is that? His voice was gentle, curious. I met his eyes across the table. Like I couldn't breathe properly when you were around, like every smile you gave me was something precious I wanted to hold onto, like I was falling for someone I didn't really know but desperately wanted to. Ethan reached across the table, his hand palm up in invitation. I slid my hand into his and the simple contact sent warmth radiating up my arm. You know more about me than you think, he said. You've been paying attention, I've seen it. The way you always ask about my weekend volunteer work at the community garden, the way you remember my coffee order, the way you actually listen when I talk about green architecture initiatives even though most people's eyes glaze over. Because I care about what you care about, I said, and because when you talk about the things you're passionate about you get this light in your eyes that's kind of addictive to watch. His smile was soft, pleased. Tell me something about you, something I don't know from working together. I thought for a moment. I paint watercolors mostly, landscapes and cityscapes. It's how I decompress after long days. There's something meditative about watching colors blend and bleed into each other, creating something that wasn't there before. I'd love to see your work sometime. It's not very good, I said automatically, then caught myself. Sorry, I have this habit of downplaying things I care about, afraid of being judged, I guess. I get that, Ethan said. I do the same thing. Took me 3 years to tell anyone at work that I was teaching architecture workshops at the community college on weekends because I was worried people would think I was trying too hard or showing off. You teach, I leaned forward, genuinely interested. I didn't know that. See, we're already learning new things about each other. Our food arrived and we ate and talked for hours, long past the point where the restaurant started emptying out around us. We talked about our families. His parents were retired professors in Seattle. Mine were divorced, my mom in California, my dad remarried in Chicago. We talked about how we both ended up in architecture. His grandfather had been a carpenter. I'd been obsessed with buildings since I was 8 years old. We talked about coming out. He'd known since high school and come out in college. I'd figured it out later in my early 20s and had a rougher time with acceptance. My dad didn't speak to me for 2 years, I admitted, surprised by how easily the words came. He came around eventually, but those 2 years were hard. It made me cautious about being open, made me worry about how people would react if they knew. Ethan squeezed my hand. I'm sorry you went through that. It's okay, well, it's not okay, but I'm okay now, mostly. I paused. How do you think people at work will react if they find out about this? Honestly, I don't know. Sterling is generally progressive, but there's a difference between general acceptance and watching two colleagues date. He studied my face. Are you worried? A little, I admitted. I don't want people to think I got opportunities because of favoritism, or that you're taking advantage of some power dynamic, or that we're being unprofessional. Those are all valid concerns, Ethan said seriously. And we'll need to navigate this carefully. I think we should keep things private at work, at least initially. Not because I'm ashamed, God, Adrian, I want to shout from the rooftops that you finally let me kiss you, but because we both deserve to figure this out without office gossip complicating things. I nodded, relief flooding through me. That makes sense. Keep work and personal separate, at least until we know what this is. And what do you want this to be? The question was tentative, vulnerable. I didn't hesitate. I want to see where it goes. I want more nights like this. I want to get to know you, really know you outside of conference rooms and design reviews. I trailed off, suddenly shy. What? I want to see if this could be something real, something lasting. Because I don't do casual well and I've already invested so much emotion in you that there's no way I could pretend this is just a fling. Ethan's smile was radiant. Good, because I'm not interested in casual either. I don't know where this goes, Adrian, but I want to find out with you. We left the restaurant around 11, stepping out into the cool Portland night. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflecting the neon signs and streetlights. Ethan's car was parked near the office and mine was in the opposite direction. I don't want this night to end. I admitted as we stood on the sidewalk, hands still loosely clasped. It doesn't have to. Ethan stepped closer, his free hand coming up to brush a strand of hair from my forehead. We could walk for a while or get coffee or... His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and frowned. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, it's my sister. She only calls this late if something's wrong. I should probably take it, I said immediately. Of course. He answered, stepping a few feet away for privacy. I watched his expression shift from concern to resignation to what looked like frustration. The conversation was brief, and when he hung up, he looked apologetic. I'm so sorry, my sister's car broke down on Highway 26. She needs me to come get her. Don't apologize, family comes first. I know, but I really didn't want tonight to end like this. We were having such a good time and... I kissed him, quick and sweet, cutting off his rambling. We'll have more nights, Ethan. Go help your sister. We'll figure out our next date later. Our next date, he repeated, smiling. I like the sound of that. Me too. We parted ways with one more lingering kiss and promises to text later. As I walked to my car, I felt like I was floating. The night hadn't ended the way I'd hoped, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that this was real, this was happening, and Ethan wanted a next date just as much as I did. The next 3 weeks were simultaneously the best and most stressful of my life. At work, nothing changed, or at least nothing appeared to change. Ethan and I maintained our professional relationship, careful not to let anything slip. We didn't arrive or leave together. We didn't sit next to each other in meetings unless it was necessary. We kept our interactions professional, measured, appropriate. But God, it was hard. Every time he walked past my desk, I had to resist the urge to reach out and touch him. Every time he praised my work in front of others, I had to keep my expression neutral instead of grinning like an idiot. Every time our eyes met across the conference room, I saw the same struggle reflected back at me, the effort it took to maintain distance when all we wanted was to be close. Outside of work, though, we made up for it. We went on proper dates, dinner at a farm-to-table restaurant in the Pearl District, a concert at the Crystal Ballroom, a hike in Forest Park where Ethan held my hand the entire time and kissed me breathless against a Douglas fir tree. We spent hours talking, learning each other's rhythms and quirks and histories. I learned that Ethan was a morning person who woke up at 5:30 a.m. every day to run, that he had a ridiculous sweet tooth and would choose dessert over dinner given the choice, that he volunteered at the community garden because his grandmother had taught him that creating beauty was a form of activism. He learned that I was absolutely useless before my second cup of coffee, that I had a minor obsession with true crime podcasts, that I'd once spent an entire summer backpacking through Europe alone because I'd needed to prove to myself that I could be independent and brave. We were careful, though. We never went to places where we might run into colleagues. We kept our social media completely separate. At work, we were nothing more than friendly coworkers. It should have been perfect. But secrets have a way of becoming burdens. It happened 3 weeks into our relationship, on a Friday afternoon. I was working late again, actually working this time, not just manufacturing an excuse, when Karen Chen from senior management stopped by my desk. Adrian, do you have a moment? My stomach dropped. Karen was nice enough, but she was also the office managing partner, which meant conversations with her were usually about performance reviews or project assignments or... Of course, I said, gesturing to the empty chair next to my desk. She sat, her expression unreadable. I wanted to talk to you about the Morrison Hotel project. Relief flooded through me. Just work. This was just about work. The clients are thrilled with your latest revisions, Karen continued. So much so that they've specifically requested you for the expansion project they're planning. It's a significant opportunity, Adrian. High-profile client, substantial budget, real creative freedom. That's incredible, I said, genuinely excited. Thank you for trusting me with it. You've earned it. Your work has been consistently excellent. She paused, and something in her expression shifted. I also wanted to mention that Ethan Reeves will be the senior architect overseeing the project. You two seem to work well together, and he specifically recommended you for this. My heart stopped. Ethan had recommended me. Did Karen know about us? Was she testing me? Was this about to become a conversation about workplace relationships and conflicts of interest? That's great, I managed. Ethan's an excellent mentor. Karen studied me for a moment, and I forced myself to maintain eye contact to keep my expression neutral and professional. He is, she agreed. Just remember that this is a major opportunity for you, Adrian. Don't let anything complicate it. The words felt weighted, meaningful in a way that made my pulse race. I won't, I said firmly. After she left, I sat at my desk, staring at my computer screen without seeing it. Had that been a warning, a subtle indication that someone suspected something, or was I just paranoid, reading meaning into a perfectly innocent conversation? My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Heard Karen stopped by, you okay? Yeah, can we talk later? My place 700. See you then. Ethan's apartment was in a converted warehouse in the Pearl District, all exposed brick and high ceilings and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was stylish and comfortable, filled with plants and books and architectural models he'd built for fun. I'd been here twice before, but I was still struck by how much the space felt like him, thoughtful, creative, grounded. He took one look at my face when he opened the door and pulled me inside, wrapping his arms around me without a word. I leaned into him, letting myself breathe for the first time since my conversation with Karen. Tell me what happened, he said softly. I explained the conversation, the new project, Karen's comment about not letting anything complicate things. Do you think she knows? I asked when I finished. Ethan was quiet for a moment. I don't know, maybe she suspects something, or maybe she was just giving general advice and you're overthinking it because we've been so careful to hide this. I don't want to lose this opportunity because people think there's favoritism involved. There isn't, Ethan said firmly. You earned that project, Adrian. Your work is exceptional. I recommended you because you're the best person for the job, not because we're together. But people won't see it that way if they find out about us. Then we make sure they don't find out, not yet, not until you've proven yourself on this project and there's no question about your qualifications. I pulled back to look at him. That could be months, Ethan, months of sneaking around and lying by omission and pretending we barely know each other. I know, his expression was pained, but if the alternative is your reputation getting damaged or people dismissing your achievements, then it's worth it, you're worth it. I wanted to argue, to say that hiding felt wrong, that I was tired of being careful, but he was right. This was my career on the line, my credibility, and as much as I hated it, protecting that had to come first. Okay, I said quietly, we keep this private for now, but Ethan. Yes. I don't want to hide forever. At some point, we're going to have to figure out how to be together openly. He kissed my forehead. I know, and we will, I promise. Despite the stress of hiding our relationship, the next month was magical. We fell into a rhythm, professional colleagues at work, devoted partners everywhere else. We stole moments when we could, quick coffee dates before anyone else arrived at the office, long phone calls late at night, weekends spent exploring Portland together or simply existing in comfortable silence in Ethan's apartment. I met his sister Melissa, who was warm and funny and gave me a very thorough, "If you hurt my brother, I will end you" speech that I actually appreciated. He met my best friend from college, Ryan, who pulled me aside afterward and said, "Okay, I get it now, he's perfect for you." We were building something real, something substantial, and every day I fell a little bit more in love with him. But the secrets were getting harder to keep. It happened on a Tuesday in late November. We were in a project meeting, me, Ethan, two other architects, and a client representative. The Morrison expansion was in full swing, and we were presenting 3 different concepts for the new conference center addition. I was mid-presentation, walking the client through the sustainable features of my preferred design, when Ethan interrupted. Adrian's right about the solar orientation, he said, pointing to the elevation I'd drawn. But I think we should also highlight the rainwater collection system he's integrated. It's innovative and it fits perfectly with the client's sustainability goals. It was a normal enough comment, supportive, professional. Except his voice had gone slightly soft when he said my name. And when our eyes met across the table, he smiled, just a small, private smile, there and gone in an instant. But Jennifer Park, one of the other architects, noticed. I saw her gaze flick between us, saw the slight narrowing of her eyes, the thoughtful expression that meant her brain was working. My stomach dropped. After the meeting, as everyone was packing up their materials, Jennifer approached me. "That was a great presentation," she said casually. "You and Ethan work really well together. You've gotten close lately, huh?" Everything in me went on high alert. "He's a good mentor," I said carefully. She studied me for a moment. "Just be careful, Adrian. Office relationships can get complicated." She walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing there with my heart racing and the distinct feeling that our secret wasn't quite so secret anymore. When we left off, Adrian and Ethan's secret relationship was on the verge of being discovered. Jennifer's knowing comment had set off alarm bells, and the pressure of hiding their feelings while working together on a high-profile project was reaching a breaking point. Now, it's time to find out how their story ends. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying Jennifer's words over and over. Office relationships can get complicated. It wasn't an accusation exactly, but it was a warning, and more than that, it was proof that we hadn't been as careful as we thought. At 2:00 a.m., my phone lit up with a text from Ethan. "Can't sleep thinking about you." Same, I replied. "We need to talk. Tomorrow after work." "Yeah." But after work came sooner than expected. The next morning, I arrived at the office to find an email from Karen Chen requesting a meeting with both Ethan and me at 10:00 a.m. No explanation, just a calendar invitation that made my blood run cold. I caught Ethan's eye across the open office space. Even from 30 feet away, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the worry in his expression. At 9:58, we walked into Karen's office together, maintaining a careful distance between us that felt more obvious than if we'd walked in side by side. Karen gestured for us to sit. Her expression was neutral, unreadable. "Thank you both for coming," she began. "I'll get straight to the point. There have been some observations made by staff members about your working relationship, and I felt it was important to address them directly." My throat went dry. Beside me, I felt Ethan tense. "Observations?" Ethan asked, his voice carefully controlled. "Jennifer Park came to me yesterday with concerns about potential favoritism on the Morrison expansion project. She noted that you and Adrian have been spending significant time together both during and after work hours, and that some of your interactions seem unusually familiar." The room felt like it was shrinking. This was it, the moment I'd been dreading for months. I opened my mouth to speak, to say what I didn't know, but Ethan beat me to it. "Karen, I need to be honest with you." His voice was steady, clear. "Adrian and I are in a relationship. We have been for the past 2 months. We've been keeping it private because we didn't want it to impact his professional opportunities or create the appearance of impropriety." I stared at him, simultaneously terrified and grateful that he'd just laid everything out in the open. Karen's expression didn't change, but she leaned back in her chair, folding her hands on her desk. "I appreciate your honesty. How long has this relationship been going on?" 2 months, as I said, but I want to be very clear. Ethan's voice grew firmer, more forceful. "My recommendation of Adrian for the Morrison expansion had nothing to do with our personal relationship. He earned that opportunity through exceptional work and innovative thinking. Every single person involved in the selection process agreed that he was the best candidate. Our relationship developed after he was already on the project." "That's not entirely accurate though, is it?" Karen said quietly. "Jennifer mentioned that you two seemed close even before the project officially started." "We were colleagues," I said, finding my voice. "We worked well together, but our romantic relationship started after I was assigned to Morrison. I can show you the project timeline if you need verification." Karen studied us both for a long moment. The silence was excruciating. "Here's my concern," she finally said. "This firm has a policy against senior staff dating direct reports. While Adrian isn't technically your direct report, Ethan, you do hold a supervisory role on this project, which creates a power dynamic that could be problematic." "I understand that," Ethan said. "And if necessary, I'm willing to step back from the Morrison project entirely. Adrian deserves the chance to complete this work without any question of bias or favoritism." No, I said immediately, that's not fair, you've put months of work into this project. Adrian's career is more important, Ethan said, looking at me directly for the first time since we'd entered the office. I won't let our relationship damage your professional reputation. And I won't let you sacrifice your work because we fell in love, I shot back. The words hung in the air between us. Karen's expression softened slightly. I see, so this is serious then, not just a casual workplace romance. It's serious, Ethan confirmed. Which is why we're willing to work with you to find a solution that maintains professional integrity while allowing us to continue our relationship openly. Karen was quiet for another moment, then sighed. All right, here's what I'm proposing. Ethan, I'm reassigning the Morrison oversight to Sarah Mitchell. She's senior enough to handle it and has expressed interest in the project. Adrian, you'll continue as lead architect, but you'll report directly to Sarah instead of Ethan. That's more than fair, I said quickly. Additionally, Karen continued, I expect complete transparency going forward, no more hiding. If you're going to be in a relationship, you need to be open about it. Secret relationships create exactly the kind of gossip and speculation that damages team cohesion. Understood, Ethan said. And Adrian? Karen looked at me directly. I want to be clear about something. You earned your position here through talent and hard work. Don't let anyone, including yourself, diminish that. The Morrison project is yours because you're exceptional at what you do, period. I felt something tight in my chest loosen. Thank you. Now get out of my office and figure out how you're going to handle the inevitable gossip when this becomes public knowledge. Walking out of Karen's office, I felt like I could breathe properly for the first time in weeks. Did that really just happen? I asked as we made our way back to our desks. I think so, Ethan said. Are you okay? Honestly, I'm relieved. I'm terrified about what people are going to say, but I'm relieved that we don't have to hide anymore. Me too. We didn't make an announcement. We didn't need to. In an office where gossip travels faster than email, word of our meeting with Karen and the subsequent reassignment of project oversight spread within hours. The reactions were mixed. Some people were supportive, congratulatory even. Our friend Michael from the planning department sent me a message that just said finally, with about 15 heart emojis. Sarah Mitchell, who was taking over Morrison oversight, pulled me aside to assure me that she'd continue to support my design vision and that the reassignment had nothing to do with my competence. Others were more judgmental. I overheard snippets of conversation in the break room about inappropriate workplace relationships and sleeping your way to the top. Jennifer Park avoided eye contact with me for 3 days straight. But the people whose opinions I actually cared about were supportive, and that mattered more than the gossip. And Ethan was unflinchingly, unapologetically by my side through all of it. The Morrison expansion project was a massive success. 4 months after that meeting in Karen's office, we unveiled the final design to the client, a stunning integration of historical preservation and modern sustainability that maintained the building's character while bringing it into the 21st century. The conference center addition featured a living wall, a rainwater collection system, and floor-to-ceiling windows that flooded the space with natural light. The clients loved it. More importantly, my design was featured in Architectural Digest's annual roundup of innovative urban renewal projects. At the celebration party the firm threw, Ethan found me standing on the rooftop terrace looking out over the Portland skyline. Hey, he said, sliding an arm around my waist, you did it. We did it, I corrected. I couldn't have gotten here without your support. Your talent got you here, Adrian. I just had the privilege of watching you shine. I leaned into him, comfortable with the public display of affection in a way that would have terrified me 6 months ago. Around us, our colleagues mingled and celebrated, and if anyone thought twice about seeing us together, they didn't show it. I've been thinking, Ethan said quietly. Dangerous habit. He laughed. I'm serious. I've been thinking about the future, about us. I turned to look at him fully. Yeah. My lease is up in 2 months, and I know we've only been together for 6 months, which maybe isn't long enough to make big decisions, but, he paused, suddenly looking uncertain. What would you think about looking for a place together? My heart stuttered, like moving in together. Yeah, I mean, we already spend most nights at each other's places anyway. And I know this is fast, but Adrian, I'm in love with you. I have been since that ridiculous bathroom incident, probably before if I'm being honest. And I want to build a life with you, a real life, not just stolen moments between work projects. You love me, the words came out barely above a whisper. Completely, hopelessly, embarrassingly. I kissed him right there on the rooftop terrace with half the office as witnesses, and when I pulled back I was smiling so hard my face hurt. I love you too, I said, and yes, yes to moving in together, yes to building a life, yes to all of it. His answering smile was incandescent. The apartment we found was perfect. A two-bedroom in the Alberta Arts District with hardwood floors, exposed beams, and enough wall space for me to hang my paintings. Ethan had taken over one corner of the living room for his plants and architectural models while I'd claimed the spare bedroom as a studio. We fell into domesticity with surprising ease, morning coffee on the balcony, collaborative cooking disasters that usually ended with us ordering takeout, lazy Sunday mornings where we didn't leave bed until noon. Work had settled into a comfortable rhythm. I was now officially a mid-level architect, having been promoted after the Morrison success. Ethan and I occasionally collaborated on projects, but we made sure to maintain professional boundaries and worked with HR to ensure there were no conflicts of interest. The gossip had mostly died down. We were just Adrian and Ethan now, the couple who'd met at work and fallen in love over blueprints and sustainable design principles. One evening, about a year after that fateful bathroom encounter, we were sitting on our couch reviewing plans for my latest project, a community center in East Portland, when Ethan set down the blueprints and looked at me seriously. "I have something to tell you," he said. My stomach flipped. "That sounds ominous." "Not ominous, just important." He took my hand. "Do you remember what you said to me that first night at the Thai restaurant?" I said a lot of things that night. You said you wanted to see if this could be something real, something lasting. I remembered. Well, I have my answer. His eyes were bright, intense. This is real, Adrian. This is the most real thing in my life, and I don't want to imagine a future that doesn't include you in it. Ethan. I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet, anyway. I know we agreed to take things one step at a time, but I wanted you to know that this is it for me, you're it for me. Everything that came before feels like it was just leading me to that moment in the bathroom when I walked in and couldn't make myself leave. I felt tears prick my eyes. You walked in on me at exactly the right moment. Best coincidence of my life. Mine too. We kissed, slow and sweet, and I thought about how a single embarrassing moment had completely altered the trajectory of my life. How a forgotten lock on a bathroom door had led to this, to love, to partnership, to a future I couldn't have imagined a year ago. People always ask me how Ethan and I got together. It's become our standard party story, the anecdote we trot out when new friends or colleagues are curious about our relationship. And every time I tell it, the part about the bathroom, the awkward eye contact in the mirror, the moment he closed the door instead of leaving, I'm struck by how much that single instant changed everything. If I'd remembered to lock the door, would we have found another way to each other? Maybe, probably. The attraction was mutual, the timing was right, the foundation was already there. But there's something magical about the way it actually happened. Something perfect about the vulnerability of that moment, me, exhausted and unguarded, splashing water on my face after a long day. Him, walking in on accident but choosing to stay. Both of us finally brave enough to admit what we'd been feeling for months. That bathroom incident wasn't just an embarrassing story. It was the universe's way of putting us in exactly the right place at exactly the right time and saying, "Here, this is your chance, don't waste it." And we didn't. We chose to be brave, we chose to be honest. We chose each other even when it was complicated and scary and uncertain. A year and a half later, we're still choosing each other every single day. That's the real love story, not the dramatic bathroom meet cute, but the daily decision to show up, to be present, to build something beautiful together. Though I have to admit, the bathroom thing makes for a pretty great opening chapter. I'm standing in that same bathroom, the executive washroom on the 4th floor of Sterling and Associates, getting ready for the biggest presentation of my career. The Green Building Council is announcing their annual awards tonight, and the Morrison Hotel expansion is nominated for Sustainable Design of the Year. The door opens behind me, and I see Ethan's reflection in the mirror before I feel his arms wrap around my waist. Deja vu, he murmurs against my neck. I laugh, at least this time you knocked first. I learned my lesson about bathroom etiquette, he kisses my temple. You ready for tonight? Nervous, I admit, there's some serious competition in that category. You're going to win. You don't know that. I absolutely know that. Your design was brilliant, innovative, and exactly what sustainable architecture needs right now. Plus, you had an excellent mentor. I turn in his arms, smiling up at him, excellent and humble. It's one of my many charms. I'm about to kiss him when my phone buzzes with a text from Sarah Mitchell. Limo's here, time to go make history. That's our cue, Ethan says. But before we leave, I take one last look around the bathroom, this ridiculous, perfect bathroom where everything started. Thank you, I say softly. For what? For walking in, for staying, for being brave enough to tell me the truth that night. Ethan cups my face in his hands, his expression tender. Thank you for being brave enough to let me stay. We kiss, soft and sweet and full of promise, and then we leave the bathroom hand in hand, ready for whatever comes next. Because that's what love is, really. It's not about the grand gestures or the perfect meet cute or the dramatic declarations. It's about choosing to stay when you could leave. It's about being brave when it's easier to be afraid. It's about building something real, something lasting, one small moment of courage at a time. And it's about looking back at where you started, at an unlocked bathroom door, at an accidental encounter, at a single moment of vulnerability, and realizing that sometimes the best things in life come from the moments we least expect.